We're back, guys. One of the weirdest and wonderfulest games we have casted here between MVP and SKT. Was hard to put it lightly, but both teams, a lot of mistakes across the board, pretty sloppy overall. In the end, MVP come out on top of the bit of a fiesta we had at about 50 minutes into the game.
This game definitely didn't pass the eye test. It was a really low-quality game. Even though it felt like MVP would win, they made some terrible decisions. They're not finishing the Elder and walking to Baron to watch SKT take the Baron and then walking back to base may have been the single worst play of the entire season. And they were still able to win because Pilot was so big on the Ezreal and Bang as a utility carry on the Morgana. That utility was never really put to relevant use. We never saw a big shield on FLICKR deciding a fight, or the GP being able to kill the fights. This was a really good turn from MVP, one of the best moments they had of the game, where they understood FLICKR's there with a level 17 smite, don't fight it.
Yeah. That's the thing about MVP. Sometimes they just do really nice things, right? They force this fight, they get Ian in, Pilot's perfect position on the right side. Not the best fight from SKT, but then there are some times where it's like, what the hell are you guys doing? What happens? They're just all over the place.
It's 7th versus 8th, and it felt like 7th versus 8th in this game. So MVP will take up a 1-0 lead. There could still be SKT turning it around in game number 2. This was Bang flashing too late. Again, one of those Kled is new kind of situations that go on the Rift. But from here, a lot of moments that were definitely a bit interesting. Pilot free hitting in a lot of the replays lets you know, though, who the eventual winner was going to be.
Yeah, Pilot played pretty well. I would say that Yondu's Gragas, we were actually talking a little bit about this in the break, was really clean, really impressive from him. I think that's something that he can put in his back pocket. Overall, I think that Yondu, individually, mechanically, he's been very clean this summer. I think he's slowly getting better and better after shaving his head and experiencing the stress of going down into relegations, having a rough spring. He's been looking really good, and having that Gragas performance just adds another champion to the list of things he can play well.
I think Yondu was always a pretty good jungler. His problem was his team didn't have a carry until Pilot came on the scene and started hitting the form he did in the second half of spring season. The team has always had Ian, ADD, Maha, all of them as role players, decent. But when it comes to actually winning a game, I think Pilot has been an important part for MVP, and still, they're not going to be one of our top 5 teams most likely. But in games like this where you needed a match winner, it's becoming more and more clear that Pilot can be a match winner.
Yeah, he's really good on the Ezreal. We'll see how the draft does switch up after this game. You know, we mentioned Gragas for Yondu. Also, the Ezreal looked really impressive for Pilot. Let's take a look at the MVP. It is going to be Pilot. I was thinking, you know, Yondu could have definitely had a shine, you know, a chance at having the MVP, but Pilot 808. Is able to pick up that MVP. Well-deserved here.
Yeah, he played really well. One team fight I saw where I thought he could have been more aggressive with the Guardian Angel, but if that's my only criticism in a 45-minute game that had all sorts of ups and downs, it means the Pilot played very well. Congratulations to him. See if there's any roster changes on either side. We know Pilot is retaining a spot for game number 2. As you mentioned, we didn't see Blank packing up his items, so I imagine Blossom won't be coming in for game number 2.
And that's a really interesting thing, right? We saw him not packing up, but also head in hands, he looked mentally destroyed. And if they're not willing to bring in a substitute after a player's like that, I mean, well, it's an interesting spot that SKT is in, where they are going to give Blank a second chance. They're not going to trust Blossom to come on in. Who knows, maybe the sub-team is back scrimming because they need some kind of hope in the future, perhaps, for replacements. But guys, let's go into game number 2, pick and ban. This time SKT on the blue side will have a little bit more flexibility in the pick ban, whereas red side never does.
We'll see what they want as a first pick, because SKT get to set the tone of the draft. We're expecting red side bans to continue to be Aatrox, Nocturne, and Taliyah. Anything else would be a surprise and cause us to do a double take.
She still believes. Says SKT fighting. We believe in you. I believe in you. Show it to us. The Zoe ban here. Looks like they don't want to first pick that for FLICKR.
I wonder what they do want to first pick. I think Morgana is a flex pick they've returned to many times, but the carry Morgana didn't work for Bang in the previous game. The Swain, very, very standard, and Tal plays it in top lane, so that one makes sense. So SKT and the feel happy about how the draft has started. Let's see where MVP want to take shape. Do you just first round Ezreal and say, I don't know what you guys want to do, but the Ezreal's been working out for us. It was double cleanse bot lane. Ezreal and Soraka with cleanse for safety. And how about a pick that Yondu loves in the Sejuani?
Yeah, wasn't banned in game number 1. Definitely the Gragas is a lot more flexible. So the Sejuani is really obvious, right? Okay, we are putting Sejuani in the jungle. We've seen it in the support role. I want to forget about that game. But I think we're almost definitely going to have it here for Yondu and the Ezreal you mentioned. After a game like that, just pick it up again for Pilot.
And it's such ultra comfort for Bang as well, and it can lane against everything to some degree of good, that it makes sense to just take it away and say, okay, you show us something else, we'll take the Ezreal, so they'll feel happy about their first round. We've actually had no Trundle versus Sejuani in a really long time in the LCK, but we will see the return to it here. See how Blank's pathing looks in this game, as it's usually, if Trundle gets there first, he can set up a counter gank. There's a lot of counter ganking options. We talked about Morgana as a potential first pick. Didn't see it there. Probably will see it at FLICKR's pick on the blue side.
Yeah, seems like the obvious one here. Very high up in terms of the tier list, as well as just being a very flexible one down in the bottom side.
Could take Mundo and Bandarius at this spot if they want it. MVP. As the top lane pool is entirely open. The Garen hovers have become bigger and bigger because of the new skin being released and people memeing about it. They're just going to take the Soraka, so they want it in the first round. If I'm MVP, I consider banning Galio because it's been SKT's Band-Aid champion for a long time. Faker is 4-1 on the Galio this season. And it's the sort of thing that can combine with the bruisers they have already and add value. More SKT fandom, I'm sure, being shared.
First sign said MVP fighting. The second one said SKT Fighto. I don't know what that means, but it seemed like a funny joke as the Korean commentators laughed.
Pyke ban to respect the potential for Effort to pop off. And in those Galio games, Effort was on Pyke and making some really good plays. That caused people to finally take notice of Effort. Mundo's going to be banned here by SKT.
Today is, I guess, Good Fortune Day, Lucky Day, and people are going out and they're eating samgyetang, which is chicken soup. It's kind of a Korean tradition over here. Usually goes over the head of the foreigners. A lot of us are not eating chicken soup today.
I think a lot of people don't appreciate what percentage of Korean cuisine is soup related, because the chigees or stews and things like that are definitely the staple here in Korea. I think people think we just have barbecue all the time, but
yeah,
actually barbecue is kind of a once a month thing for me, at least.
Yeah, you know, it's an occasion, on occasion.
Final ban here going to be the Talon, so respecting Ian's mid lane roams, and the Talon will release some pressure. When I see the Mundo ban on blue side, I actually think it's going to be the option for a top lane Swain, because Swain can't lane so well against Mundo after Spirit Visage, so a bit of a coverage ban. It gives you a lot of different options, and here we go, it's the Kled. Now, Ian's Kled in the mid lane definitely didn't pass the eye test, but ADD's in the top lane pretty well played in the previous game.
Yeah, it's just a flexible pick that they can say, well, let's see where you're going to put your stuff first, and then we'll decide. Gnar being hovered here.
We've seen Gnar exclusively as a Mundo counter in summer season, and we will see Gnar locked in here. Obviously, it's a very flexible champion. Ken and Gnar, both of them pretty strong laners with a ranged auto attack. And I mentioned the Galio. We will see it here. So this is something that's worked for SKT. Problem they have is their comp is very low damage. It's Galio, Swain, and Gnar. It's a lot of bruisers, I guess Morgana also. So a lot of bruisers going on here. Vel'Koz would be an interesting last pick that would be risky, but could also take down the enemy team if things went extended. Looks like it's going to be a mid lane Kled if we do see the Cannon. Cannon into Gnar, very old pick. AP Cannon could definitely be coming out of ADD. Could consider the on-hit if you double down around lane. Damage side of MVP stronger. It's intriguing here because I think SKT have gone to their bread and butter for summer season.
They're looking for the team fights, you know. You get Morgana in the mix, you get Galio in there, the Swain, Gnar ultimate. You're trying to wombo combo, you're trying to do 5v5. Whereas that Kennen last pick is like, what is Kennen gonna do if it's AP and trying to run into Morgana Black Shield, tanky Swain, Galio, and a bunch of really thick front lines. So I'd like to see ADD do a bit of split pushing here.
What it can do is create a huge front line for Ezreal to do the damage behind, because the Slicing Maelstrom and Kled and Sejuani are both space controlling champions as well. That's what could happen here. Could also go AD and split push, like you mentioned, if you want to go that way. SKT is beefy but low damage. They get control over objectives. You start face checking them, it will feel like a world of pain. And Ian is not convinced on the mid lane Kled first time out. And these mid lane Kleds, inspired by super carry Doinby, predictably have not looked anywhere near the tier of Rogue Warriors mid laner.
MVP, it seems like they really do love the Kled pick, but can they actually play it to the high level? ADD looked good. Ian, we'll give him another shot. We'll see what he can do. Pilot Max on the bottom side, they were very happy up against the Morgana the last time around. And of course, we are going to see what it can do this time against the Swain. The Swain Morgana is pretty common nowadays, so they should have a lot of practice against that bottom lane. It looks like, guys, the game is in fact ready to go. So let's jump into game number 2, SKT. Let's see if they can tie it up, or will MVP sweep the series 2-0. MVP fans even more passionate after game number 1. They love the crazy style of MVP to just get in the face of their opponents and go ham. It's definitely a bit of what we saw in the last game, for better or for worse.
I'm excited to watch the bot lane develop here, because usually we look at Swain Morgana, I think you alluded to in draft, say, oh yeah, pretty solid, we see it a lot. Ezreal Soraka is a counter pick to support Morgana, and also the Ezreal having a lot more trading and even pushing early game, just having a stronger auto attack and the auto attack cancel that the Mystic Shot occupies in lane. So that's one I'm interested to keep track of. Looking at the keystones here, we know now it's an on-hit cannon coming through, as he's gone for press the attack. Unsealed Spellbook, the choice of Smeb and other top lane AP cannons. Gathering Storm though, guess they're thinking about the later parts of the games as Tal dances around in the brush.
Sometimes you just gotta shut up and dance. Gotta see what is happening down here on the bottom side, though. The sweeper was actually really good to get that away, and some extra items for Pilot, as Effort also started sweeper alongside the support of Max. It seems like this is more common. But the sweeper's going to be big as the Trundle is coming in.
Very, very standard level 2 Trundle gank. A lot of potency behind this onto Max, because he has Cleanse and Flash here. So very easy to force a flash out of someone at level 1, even Pilot. Pilot walks up and looking for a flash.
Yeah, they get the pullback. There is the flash. Not able to land the never move. He did still have the cleanse, so it would have been just instant, and there was no extra pullback. So nicely done. They get the flash, and here comes Blank going for the invade.
They have some pressure also from Morgana to roam, so far good set piece play by SKT. Effort walks up, just level 1 with Binding. Binding on cooldown, so won't provide too much now. Let's see how the Smite War goes.
Trying to knock him up before. It is going to go over to Blank. Yondu not going to get in range of that one, so good start for them here. Blank able to create some stuff down on the bottom side.
It's pretty low percentage for Sejuani to be able to steal away that blue, and also, because he didn't make the entrance to top side, he's very likely to lose his second scuttle of the game. So it seems like first 2 spawns will go the way of Blank. Talk about the importance of Trundle being able to outpath, counter gank, and make map plays when it's against the Sejuani, and so far so good for Blank.
Hits level 3, comes over here, gets the extra golden experience. Could look for a gank in the top side here. Looks like it was pushing into ADD, but actually just going to pass on by and go for that. They're looking for a gank here onto FLICKR, trying to survive with the taunts. There is the Justice Punch, but the nice long-range stun coming in from Yondu with the red buff. That's going to be first blood. FLICKR too far down the lane and punished by MVP.
Not a lot of mid laners have kill pressure on a Galio, but when the Q hits, so important that hit, and ignite mid lane Kled, just like we saw from Doinby. The kill pressure was there. They'd already easily built up the permafrost because, of course, Kled is a melee auto attacker and will get those autos in. They pick it up, cleanly done by the side of MVP. Look over the replay. It's all about hitting the first Q. He needed to hit that one, able to hit it. Ignite comes in, and look how quickly the permafrost is available. Pretty trivial stuff for MVP. Kill doesn't go on to Ian, and crucially, of course, FLICKR this early in the game with the short death timers will get into lane very quickly, so there's not going to be a back timing advantage for the side of MVP, but first blood, however you get it, always feels good.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a similar situation for Yondu as I was talking about in game 1, where he was 3-0-1 on the Gragas and just got an early locket. Might be the choice for him eventually as we get along. Certainly a lot of AoE magic damage on the side of SKT once again, but wait and see what he does with that extra gold.
Something I didn't get to mention earlier when it came to who was going to be forced to flash at level 1 for MVP, you definitely take the Ezreal over the Soraka because she has no other mobility spells, and he, of course, has the Arcane Shift, so actually ended up being a decent trade, but the bindings have been razor sharp from Efforts. They draw a cleanse out of Max.
Yeah, Bang, not the cleanest Morgana game. Had a couple of decent team fights in game number 1, but they decide to let Effort, the real support, have a hand at it. FLICKR no flash here, so they're thinking about a return gank.
They don't have Ignite this time, but they're going to go for it anyway.
Trying to just spudge his way out of there. Double taunt is nice, but there is the stun. Actually, nice knock-up, and they force him in range again. Perfect knock-up there with the pillar by Blank, and a really good read by FLICKR. Having the support of Blank this time around, he gets the kill.
So much greed from Yondu. Without the Ignite, they overrate their damage output. He goes under turret, and yes, gets completely screwed over by FLICKR and also the pillar coming through. Nicely done by SKT. Just too greedy by MVP.
That it definitely would. Blank, he's been up here on the top side multiple times. He ran over 2 wards. And he should know by ADD's caution in the lane that he has been spotted. So, well, there you go. That's fantastic for the side of SKT. FLICKR was already winning in a big way in CS in the mid lane, but having the Trundle come over and help out with the kill is even better.
Opening of this is just fine by MVP. Once again, Ian is able to connect the Q. They go in, they do a lot of damage early, but at this point, they just get too greedy. Yondu walks up, takes 2 turret shots, first gets knocked up, then of course the pathing that happens when you put down the pillar. Definitely a mistake from Yondu. Bit of an unforced error, like we've talked about in the past.
It's nicely done on the defense of the gank as well by FLICKR. This time it seems like the communication between Blank and FLICKR on some more comfortable picks for the two looks a lot better.
That is partly because FLICKR can, of course, initiate everything with the taunt, and just Galio in general has been a pick since Worlds 2017 that SKT have looked ultra comfortable on. I know a lot of people are frustrated when FLICKR isn't on a hard damage threat or a playmaker, but Galio is still a playmaker, the damage threat not so much.
Speaking of going for kills here, trying to hop Ian off his Scarl, but it's not able to happen. But that extra damage that FLICKR is able to take in the trade, not even necessarily needing that. Hold the phone though, no cleanse here onto Max, and the binding is there again from Effort.
Could be more.
Meanwhile, Blank is here. Pilot has his flash available, but it doesn't look like it's gonna matter. He saves it this time around, a double kill down in the bottom side for SKT.
And Blank's in the right spot again. Really well done by SKT. Max didn't have the forethought there.
Oh boy, he does get the smite off actually on the blue, so he is gonna be saved, but does not go down.
FLICKR had first rotation as well, so Blank won't give away a kill, but still, good job, SKT in the early game here. Been a step ahead of MVP outside of Yondu's successful gank. Gonna watch the replay. Max doesn't have cleanse, needs to be able to flash. Let's see when he finally registers on the binding coming in.
Clean.
It was clean. Had it in vision for a while, didn't flash it. Easy first kill, and Blank being on the front foot nets them the second.
I like the tanking there from Effort. Gets the aggro from the turret before the Trundle even shows up into that one, so good job on the dive as well. Effort looking really clean on this Morgana. We see sometimes where his youth and his inexperience comes back to bite him, but sometimes he looks really mechanically skilled on a couple of different picks. The Morgana and the Pike so far have been good looks for him.
I think when he's been pushed in, when his lane is losing, we've seen the rookie tendencies a lot more, and that shouldn't be so unexpected. From behind, I think he does get caught in kind of awkward spots where he's face checking to clear a ward and gets taken down. In lane from behind, he can make some mistakes. But from ahead, you know, when he actually has the comfortable ability to lane and not have too much threat towards him, he has been pretty impressive. Just think of those games where he can roam around on the pike. He's been outstanding.
They get the arcane shift here from Pilot, but he is going to be very, very careful on the backside. Effort looking for it again. Let's see if he can land it. He's going to force the flash out of Max. You can see just how scared they are now. Even with that cleanse available, he knows the insta pullback from the Swain is going to be right there.
Counter jungling as well, so SKT controlling the tempo of this game very well. Haven't even seen a hero's entrance be drawn out at any point. Blank has been in the right spot at the right time. This lane that we mentioned could go the way of the Ezreal Soraka is actually pretty landslide being won by SKT after all the summoners have been blown basically every time the camera has come to the bottom lane.
But this time we have two other members of MVP potentially looking to collapse. You saw the Kled was edging on down there. The binding was down from Effort, but they pulled themselves away as they decide, no, it's not worth it just yet.
Back to the scene of the crime, the mid lane. Ian's Ignite is back up, so again, kill pressure a bit higher.
And the binding this time around, no cleanse. Gonna come out from Max, eats a lot of damage. But here we go, once again. Now they're gonna try for it.
We going.
The charge is gonna come on in. The flash available only for Bang here. Effort with the Q down into the bottom of the map. Not even on top of them, but the double TP coming on in. Tal is here as well as FLICKR trying to knock Ian off of it. Doesn't look like he can get away from this one. Tal going 1v2 in the back line as well. He has the damage, the double kill now for Bang this time around. Yondu, he's caught in the river, making a triple for Bang. And SKT, they finally collapse and win the fight.
Excellent collapse by SKT. MVP did not respect the fact that Tal's teleport was up. And ADD's was not, so while ADD might actually get the first turret, in fact he won't. He's gonna get harassed out by the teleport, zoning him away. Tal can push in bot lane, and SKT get everything. Gonna watch the replay here. A set-piece play for sure, but a predictable one when they've made a couple of threatenings this way. The Sejuani ultimate just thrown out to zone, but they don't even kill Effort at the start of this. Faker may have been out of Hero's entrance range, but he can flash in and teleport in, and be instantly important. He has the ability to control space. Nice little choice there by Tal. He gets both, but crucially, the Soraka's gonna have a much harder time getting out, and they clean up 3 kills for the Swain.
Well, there you go. It gets actually really scary. You know, generally when you guys watch Swain in competitive, he gets 1 kill. He's just kind of biding his time. But when he finishes Rod of Ages at 11 minutes and he's 4-0-1 with a 9-stack Dark Seal, this guy can do a lot of damage before your team is leveled up, before your team has enough magic resist. There's going to be a pretty scary Swain in this game, actually.
They're able to just send 2 members into ADD's lane, so the on-hit cannon is not really going to be able to achieve anything. Doesn't have AoE in a scenario like this, so going to be easily outpushed by Swain and a Morgana on the turret. Just trying not to die, just trying to stay in, but the harass, when there's no duo lane to respect, you can see that every time you start fishing as Bang and Effort, leads to quite a lot of harass onto the cannon.
You can tell they were thinking about it. Bang and Effort this time around, they're feeling the duo of Swain Morgana instead of Morgana Shen.
It's going to lead to a counter rotation here from MVP, but probably after the turret's already down. SKT picks up the turret. Blank is already onto the Rift Herald, and this is definitely like the scrims that SKT have won, no doubt. This is where everything falls into place. They're ahead of the play. Blank has been outpathing Yondu pretty significantly as well. Yondu very targeted on mid lane, and of course, the moment he went down, undoing a lot of his good work. They also have the Galio, Hero's Entrance, to cover any attempts at a pick by MVP, and full control for SK Telecom T1.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a little bit about game 1. If the couple of times that Blink got caught in the side jungle, if Faker had been there, if the communication had been better, SKT would have been ahead in the early game, and they would have looked really good. But they got behind, got a little bit sloppy, and it wasn't a good look for them in game 1. But when they get ahead, the Galio doesn't even need to Hero's entrance into the top lane. He can just show his face, and they're like, okay, we need to give this up. all the objectives fall in the way of SKT, and looks very clean.
Game 1 was definitely about the coordination that was lacking between Blank and FLICKR in great terms. We said that, the Kindred on the front foot, that was the thing they were most empowered, but the Kindred went down a couple of times and things didn't come together. Here, the coordination's been very strong. And while MVP might be able to come back at a much later point in the game, they have to give up every objective to SKT's current power level. Ezreal a long way away from his 2-item completion. SKT have taken the Rift Arrow, they now take the mid lane turret, 3 outer turrets down super early, and it's a big risk for MVP to look for plays like this.
You can see just how much lockdown they have the taunts into it. Oh, okay, MVP want to charge on in. They get onto Bang, but it's a Swain, and he has stopwatch, and there it is, ADD. As I mentioned, you're running into this comp. You are not going to do anything as the cannon, especially before you're fed. Pillar awkwardly is going to let that binding miss, but SKT still win the fight.
SKT find MVP saying, okay, it's 5v4. Tal can't join, let's win it. But it's an easy win for SKT. Like you say, there's stopwatch, there's Galio ultimate. This is a comp that excels when they're being dived onto. And it wasn't an AP cannon running in, it's an AD cannon who doesn't want to use his ultimate for initiation anyway. Because MVP just saying 5v4, let's go, without fully considering all the different variables here. After taking that initial damage, they should have just disengaged from here, but the call is to charge. The call is it's going to be a 5v4. But I think very quickly they understood, wait, these health bars are actually really high. Yeah. We're screwed.
Especially the cannon. Push them back, you charge, maybe you try to disengage afterwards, but he was absolutely not going to do anything in that one. At least Yondu does get away, but it's just barely in at least, because 5,000 gold ahead here, 15 minutes in, 7-1. Twitch chat's favorite score in any sport. Let's take a look at the damage here. Of course, Tal wasn't there, so you don't really look at that 0 number, but Galio and Morgana leading the charts.
And the lowest damage numbers are on Pilot because he doesn't have his items, and the fight happened away from where he could actually impact it. So different what we were seeing in game number 1. So I think MVP have mismanaged the tools they have, and perhaps just to a pretty comfortable victory for SKT. It seems early to be calling it that way, but MVP's comp when you go for on-hit cannons about split push, and already ADD can't control the lane assignment he's in. He's been in a 2v1 for the majority of the last 5 minutes. Their comp requires the Ezreal to do basically all of the damage, and for the Ezreal to get there, it's going to take time that right now they don't have, and SKT can continue to push up, put down deep vision, and MVP only picking up farm when SKT decide they can.
Yeah, it's total control of the red side jungle right now. No big objectives for SKT to go to, but they could set up a really powerful post-20 situation if they can get all the vision down and maybe even an inner turret. Struggling to get that just yet, but if they could pick that up, especially in the mid lane, would be perfect for taking Baron. Again, it's we talked about it in the draft. It's a team that loves to 5v5, loves to team fight. When your Swain is super fed and nobody's really weak on the side of your team, MVP, they might be forcing a couple of Baron fights that SKT will be happy about.
And SKT want to fight now, as early as possible, because their base damages are high and they're all ready to go. And obviously MVP are squishy and don't have their damage items together. So because of that, we want to fight as early as possible. We mentioned in the late game that SKT would run out of consistent damage, but with Swain at 4-0-2, maybe he can do the great majority of the damage. Everyone else kind of a bit part player on the side of SKT.
Take a look at that bottom lane. Yondu and the rest of MVP has realized that the cannon is not really going to stand up to him just yet. Still working on that Blade of the Rune King against completed Black Cleaver from the Gnar. Looking for a gank here.
Greedy of Tal to walk up. Might want one more minion wave. Yondu being very patient. Hasn't been spotted on the control ward that's down.
You can see ADD's trying to bait him into it, trying to feign weakness. But Tal not going to be that greedy. Just picks up another wave and is going to go ahead and go recall.
Should also consider that ADD has not even got to play the Ruin King yet, so his damage is very low. Would have taken a lot of chase to actually pull off the kill. But they back away. Yondu didn't have any camps to clear, so it's not like he had better things to do. That's partly because he cleared them and partly because SKT has been controlling the MVP jungle for the better majority of the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, look at that deep vision they have, even on the blue side here. Effort doing his job, gonna put down another ward. It's the 2 chokes into the blue side, outside of the right side lane. Gonna take the blue as well, hand that one over to Bang. And we're gonna have a little bit of a lull here because again, there's no Baron, there's no second Drake to come up here for about 30 seconds. It's just about nobody making mistakes and trying to get as much deep vision as possible for SKT.
That amusing part of the game where it feels like SKT are the big fish in the small pond because they've taken every easy objective and the other ones just haven't spawned for them to kill. That's the frustration for them, is they're ready to go, whereas MVP, I think now, after losing the last team fight, they got the late memo that they need to stay back and farm. They need to get a Muramana onto Pilot as soon as possible before they can even dream of taking a 5v5 that right now is still stacked against them. So SKT just waiting for Drakes to spawn, walking over to them. They will melt, and all MVP can do is try to hit item timings to try to win a fight in the future.
Free Cloud Drake to SKT will certainly help their initial engage if they want to just run at the enemy team. It could be sometimes hard for SKT to get the perfect engage. They're going to need, you know, some kind of lockdown from Sway and Morgana, maybe a pillar or a flank ward from Tall would be fantastic if they want to get on top there.
The on-hit cannon, you still go for W first into E. It's always been the way, but the E much better now that you get attack speed coming out of the Lightning Rush compared to before. That was one of the buffs that were given over to the cannon as some of his AD variables were changed a couple of patches ago. Again, largely about the split push that right now is seeming pretty impossible. He's not really getting map pressure, which is what you want out of the winning Kennen versus Gnar matchup. It's a winning matchup if you go AP as well most of the time. So the fact that he went AD here was about turret threat and just keeping the Gnar in lane at all points. That was abandoned very early when they were unable to pick up any turrets and are in this 0 to 3 turret situation.
Baron has spawned. SKT not with the fastest Baron of all time, of course. Get a lot of zaps from the Swain and perhaps Tall if he's there, but most likely he's going to be split pushing. So, especially because they did not pick up that Mountain Drake to start, they're kind of just going to be sitting here for quite a while.
Waiting to see what the next step is. They would love the Baron, like you mentioned, but they only picked before. So that's what we're going to wait on here. So the True Shot Barrage used just to check it, and there is the Muramana. So definitely a slow timing from Pilot, but something they needed to even be able to turn a fight, regardless of how it starts. Flanks providing the coverage. Control wards are sticking for MVP on their red side jungle, so at least they have access to jungle camps that in other games might be impossible. But SKT realizes they push up, and MVP aren't really in a position to contest.
Bang with no wards available here, which means that right side bush is going to be dark for now. We'll have no vision on in there. As you mentioned, still looking for those picks. Tall in the side lane. We always got to look at that. He did complete his Blade of the Rune King, which is going to make his life a lot easier down in the bottom side. Pretty much just almost a full item ahead of ADD.
And for a full damage build, even against Kennen, it's interesting to see. Not something we see normally, but we do see most of these champions who in the past would go tank builds, go pure damage, and try to just pull off the correct teamfight execution. Cuvée was the first top laner we had in Korea that would go damage-clad basically every game. There's the Wit's End, so the damage coming through from ADD. Makes sense to go Wit's End over Rageblade, just because Rageblade takes so long to build and so expensive, and at least Wit's End sitting on the parts of it a little bit stronger for the Kennen. But would love a Rageblade at some point if the game goes long enough.
I love how they give the red to FLICKR, by the way. I mean, he's not going to be the easiest guy to proc it. Maybe the Trundle. I mean, you look at the 4 members, there's nobody who has a long range. Both Swain and Morgana are laughable. And, of course, the Gnar is not anywhere close to the red buff, so they're like, well, I guess the Galio can have it.
This is definitely the game where you feel for the fans because MVP's so far behind, they can never even look for a pick until they get some more items. And SKT's so far ahead, but have taken all the easy objectives, that the end result is we just see a lot of farming. There's no marksman on the SKT side, so they can't even hope to sneak Baron. They do it so slowly And this ends up being a really dragged out game until MVP actually feel comfortable enough to poke their heads out.
Yeah, SKT, especially after the sloppy game number 1, they are just not in the mood to make mistakes. So it's just all safety from them too. They're like, well, we're not going to group up and try to 5v5 and go for any inner turrets. We don't have to, right? We're not forced to. We're going to have a one-on-one, though. Tala's going to be stunned, and oh, hello, Pilot. Really nice job, even from behind. Pilot coming into the split push lane.
Remember, Pilot was doing that in game number 1, trying to play the piggyback.
Yeah.
Not respecting the enemy's Baron damage. Max already flashed. Effort doesn't want to chase.
Blank getting in there. But yeah, that's a really good move. I mean, they stopped that side push from Tal, and it's going to open up the bottom side.
This is not something we've ever really seen in the history of League. AD carries collapsing on bot lane, but it's happening more and more because we're seeing both teleport AD carries, not in this game, but also enemy teams with no marksman, where you look at them and say, hey, if our AD carry goes bot lane, you're not going to stop Baron, so we're fine. Because Baron threat is getting lower in a lot of team comps, it does open up someone like Pilot to go for roaming ganks that just never have been a thing in League of Legends.
Yeah, it definitely changes the state of the side lane. You know, the 1v1. Uh-oh, Ian in a lot of trouble here. Is going to be knocked off Scarl. Even commits to the flash here, but nowhere for him to go. Nicely done, clearing out all the vision there by SKT. Ian walking into a totally blind jungle is going to be punished for it.
Let's say it was an optimistic flash. That was a cooldown he could have held on to. No room to charge out there realistically, so he'll give away his flash and his life. SKT, though, still can't fall back onto Baron off it, so while they'll continue to control the MVP red side jungle, it doesn't actually blow open the game.
Yeah, these are definitely comps that, especially on this patch, they make the 20-minute to 40-minute timer kind of just this, right? You get a couple of picks, it's like, oh, a little bit of extra gold onto my Ezreal. That's good, but it's not going to change the state, really, unless someone makes a big mistake here in the next 20 or so minutes. ADD looking to get in and slow down FLICKR. We also have Yondu coming on in, probably looking to flash the Glacial Prison.
They're going to keep chasing now because the teleport was canceled very quickly.
Effort, though, scuttling on up to the top side. Meanwhile, Tal is having none of this. It's just taking them out, Drake.
And people are asking why it's so slow and so boring to some. It's because it's all about taking the most realistic objective that's going to be the biggest kind of risk-reward. And right now for MVP, we can't get near the Drake. Let's try to kill the Galio slowly in the top. For SKT, they can't start the Barons. They just start piling up the Drakes. And MVP say, I guess we're going to lose 3 Drakes and we'll have to fight at the Elder. But that'll be late enough that the gold, while it'll still be a gold lead for SKT, the items will start to be there for MVP, and they'll hope in their heads they can take a fight. Even if that's wrong and they do lose eventually at 40 minutes, the right way for them to play is to try to double down on a hopeful later, because right now the hope is kind of gone.
Let's see if they collapse here, trying to land on an effort, but oh baby. Pilot, 5 levels up is going to force that Zhonya's here out of effort. Assuming he has completed that. Yes, he has. So a nice bit of damage from Pilot. He's showing his face again and saying, hey, remember me.
Does have 3 items. 3-item AD carry is something that SKT can never have this game. They have a lot of bruisers who will do a lot of consistent damage if people commit. They don't have ranged damage dealers, and I guess the Gnar situationally can be that, but you all understand what I'm saying. ADD continues to split push. SKT could definitely roll someone bot lane and try to kill the cannon, but we're not going to see that for now.
Yeah, cannon can be slippery, so instead they're just going to play the safe 4-on-4. Really nice ward there, actually, from MVP. Spots them coming in, and Pilot is just headhunting effort right now.
But SKT are losing overall. We're seeing Cannon do a bit of turret damage here, and
oh boy,
Pilot doesn't have any risk to what he's doing. He has a heal in his back pocket. He has Cleanse Flash available. He'll continue to push up, and this is where SKT running out of options. It's, okay, let's watch this. Oh, ult misses.
Oh boy, is he gonna flash for it? No, he'll just say, hey, you missed everything. I will run the lane and try to take your inner turret.
This is the sort of greed that MVP can't afford to take. He doesn't have Frozen Mallet. He can't kill the Gnar. He would eventually disengage. It's a smart move just to take the win with the flash and back away. That means Cannon will push in another mini wave, back off, be closer to the Frozen Mallet. You'd assume he's building as the next item. and MVP overall have won the last 5 minutes, which is looking impossible 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Somehow, some way, I guess, if you have a very easily disengageable marksman who can just poke from range and he's hitting the squishiest target on your team, that's really nice. He's also in the bottom side. Pilot is quickly becoming the big MVP for MVP, saying, I will carry you to victory.
So the question is, what should / could SKT have done between, let's say, 15 minutes and 29 minutes as we're watching? Because people will be watching this saying, okay, MVP, yep, they're doing better, but my team was really far ahead. What should we have done? I think to me, it's about setting up a no-go zone. What you do is you start to put down vision in the top side. You don't care if some of it is cleared. You're focusing on putting down trinket wards for a teleport and have Tal in ult. So, you know, with a 15-second ult time on his Mega Gnar, show up behind the enemy team as you're coming in from the front. If they try to turn on to Tal, guess what? Galio's getting into the back line. Instead, they've never really looked for a teleport play. They've been so worried about the cannon and the Gnar holding him down that they're putting down deep vision and disengaging, and that's all that ever happens. In the meantime, MVP's picking up farm they shouldn't be getting access to because of that, and now we're getting to the point where it's still 6,000 gold, and MVP could actually win a fight, theoretically.
6,000 gold at 30 minutes compared to 6,000 gold at 15 minutes. It's double the game time and double the problem for SKT for sure. Pilot, he just has a target on the head of Morgana right now.
And you're looking at that gold lead, Valdez. It was 5,000 gold at 14.5 minutes. It is basically exactly the same 15 minutes later, and one of the troubles you'll see now is ADD is going to keep building for lane, and Tal is going to slow down and stop building for team fights, and that's a concern. It might be War Monks to try to disengage some of the damage and continue to take trades, but ADD will keep building for lane. That's what the cannon was picked for, and that's what he's going to double down on. They could definitely send the Swain bot side and try to just 2v1 it.
There are games where the cannon looks weak, where the enemy team is able to capitalize on a mistake, the teleport. Mega Gnar comes in, as you were talking about. They're able to clamp down in the enemy jungle and then take the Baron, and the cannon gets an inner turret, and you're like, well, thanks for the small amount of extra gold. And then there's games like this, where the cannon is absolutely dominating the lane, and the enemy team is just not finding a way to engage at all, and it's like, well, the Gnar just looks useless in this game.
And people will say, why is SKT like this? They were so good in the late game in the past. They always knew what to do. It's because they always had a marksman. That meant they put down a damn control ward on the Baron. You start it, didn't get it, just pull away. Yeah. They'll make a mistake, they'll face check eventually. They don't have that, and that's why they've never even started the Baron, exactly. And that's why the game is still going.
I mean, you look at the composition of SKT. Their Baron turn is fantastic. Right? You pillar him down, the Swain's in there, you flash Morgana. You just 5v5 them to death, and there's no hope for MVP. But there's no Baron pressure, and so MVP never has to even get close to a team fight.
What are the two things SKT does not have? Baron damage and Siege. Both of them abysmal with this comp. That's not what it's for, but that's fine. They got a huge Swain. They're ready to team fight, but you need to find creative ways to get that team fight, because MVP have just said, I guess we're fine farming, and SKT haven't had a way to get a 5v5. SKT could still definitely win this game.
Oh boy, here we go again. Effort all alone this time, and it looks like he might be dying here. No ultimate comes out from Pilot. There's the TP, and it's canceled. As they decide, no, they're too far away. We're not going to go for it here. So that was from FLICKR. They still have the Gnar TP. We're going to come in the top side. We actually have FLICKR versus Ian. FLICKR low on mana right now. MVP is able to disengage. Once again, same situation as before.
I assume Ian charged to cancel the teleport. We didn't see, but the charge is on cooldown, so I think that's a pretty informed guess on that one.
Yeah.
We'll back away.
Also, no cancel CD reduction for FLICKR, yes. So.
There seems to have been a smart interrupt by Ian. That means that, sadly, for people, lovers of action, the action is once again going to be slowed down.
Gotta love it. We're sitting here 33 minutes in. Not much has changed, although it's looking much better for MVP.
But there's good news. The Elder Dragon is coming in 6 minutes' time. And that is something that's going to be harder for MVP to deal with. The only issue you have is you're like, we were way ahead at 13 minutes. Now it's 39 minutes. And we could actually lose a 5v5. It's in the realm of possibility. So the frustration of SKT not being able to take easy objectives after 13 minutes is, I'm sure, something that's going to be discussed in the water cooler moments of most SKT fans' future life.
Yeah. Well, Elder Drake would make this composition that's not really fantastic at taking Baron a lot better. With a True Damage burn that would eventually come through. But we got to make it there. And Pilot, he's like, oh boy, please get me there. I'm ready, guys. He's got that Lord Dominus finished. He's sitting on 4 items. Cooldown boots as well. He skips the Archangel Staff.
AD's being greedy here. He's going to walk up a face check. Misses the auto.
Blade of the Rune King is used. Here comes Effort. They're trying to slow him
get
down.
him.
Looks like they will be able to. And finally, the hands go wild as SKT finally find the kill onto the cannon.
Really smart play by Tal. Was able to sidestep the Q. I said missed auto. That's dumb. But they sidestepped the Q, and from there, everything fell into place. Now SKT goes to Baron. Now they could actually be a really good moment for SKT.
Looks like instead of Baron, they're going to try to collapse on the top side. Isn't going to work. This time, they're just going to push them back, get that deep vision, and now think about the Baron.
See if they actually go towards the objective. They've had a control ward on it forever, literally.
Pilot's still looking for Effort.
He just wants to one rotation effort and get a Zonias at least.
Yeah.
20 seconds left onto ADD. They're going to start it finally, SKT.
Yeah. They wait for the blue trinket vision to expire. Another one comes in, though, so they know this is started, but it doesn't look like they're too happy to go on in here. FLICKR in the bush. Binding is going to go wide. Ian pretty low. FLICKR, though, trying to come in here. Ian, did he bite off more than he could chew? FLICKR getting so low himself. Here's Tal on the back line, but look at Pilot going 1v3 there, and now Tal is all alone. Unfortunately, Pilot himself is going to zone everybody from SKT out, and MVP actually salvaged the fight.
SKT really approached that team fight in 3 different mines and end up with nothing because they don't focus down or back up their teleporting top laner. So they lose in every single way, and they'll lose mid lane outer turret as well.
Looks like it is only going to be the outer turret, but again, another nice chunk of gold and another delay tactic to get later on in this game. Oh boy. This one is on a knife's edge once again.
So they start the Baron. That's the right move. They're able to check it with just the true shot barrage. Faker's alone. Again, he's zoning. He's in a control ward. You understand that. When he starts to go down, they have so many things they can do. But when Faker disengages, Bang is already low. So it's a free kill onto the Morgana. Blanks alone. Tal teleported in. Bit of a comedy of errors, and yet returning to the Baron is still the right move for SKT.
You know, if they had a marksman instead of a Swain, the Baron might have just died, and it wouldn't have mattered. But here we go. No vision this time around. Maybe SKT is able to sneak it here. It's getting lower. They have double Mountain Drake this time around.
They might get it.
So it's a lot faster for them, even with their composition. Here comes Pilot. FLICKR doing a really nice job zoning him out once again, as well as Bang is going to get on top of ADD. Bang might pay for it. No, is going to have the Galio and the Zonias. MVP thinking about a follow-up on the engage. Bang, King, solo of a Pilot. Oh, man. He nearly goes down in that one. ADD getting greedy, trying to take out Bang. Is going to go down, and SKT, they finally find the Baron. A kill on the backside as well, and finally SKT ahead in this one.
Really good call to return to the Baron, knowing that most of the spot vision was on cooldown. The trinkets are only coming up now. It took them the better part of 37 minutes, but they do finally get the Baron.
This time SKT, that weird Baron dance, they no longer have to do it. They get the buff, and now MVP have to come to them.
Watching in the picture-in-picture. Again, well problem-solved this time by SKT. They have enough members on the Baron. They pick up that objective. In the picture-in-picture, you can see they're going to get 2 turrets as well through all of this. Pilot tried to walk up, finish off Bang, but he doesn't get the kill. And it takes 1140 damage from the Demon Flare. That was the biggest Demon Flare I've seen in a while. He's out of the fight. Someone has to die, and that's why ADD rolls down.
You speak about that big Demon Flare. Bang starting off 4-0-1. He's now 5-0-3. Right after the core item build for Swain, he went Death Cap and Void Staff. So that's why he's beginning to blow up that back line.
Job done for SKT. They got the Baron, they got the 2 inhibitors, so that's the successful push they've been denied for a long time. And the good news is they have 2 minutes of Baron. The Elder Dragon spawns in 1:15, so it should be inside track for them to pick up that buff as well.
Yeah, SKT looking good. trying to push this one in. It's long games on this patch, especially when you draft a composition like this, but it's whatever works for SKT, of course. They just want to get wins. They're not concerned with trying to be flashy, trying to end games in 25 minutes or anything like that.
Damage numbers in the final fight. The Kled never able to commit means that he puts out no damage. Champion only goes one way, and this way it was just disengaging the entire time. ADD no longer able to split push because Baron buff is on the Rift, so it has no relevance in the 1v1 against the Kled. Sorry, against the Gnar. They pick up the last of the inner turrets here. Big gold lead finally for SKT. Way over 10,000, around 13,000. In a very good spot to win this game. Not guaranteed, just like we said about MVP in game number 1. Definitely set up to succeed.
Pushing forward now, that Baron buff, still a minute left on it, so they have a super strong push. MVP did push out that top lane at least, so they have a little bit of breathing room, but it doesn't look likely that they'll hold this inhibitor. ADD looking to engage onto FLICKR, actually, trying to push him back. Not going to be successful in killing him, anything like that, but another pillar comes down. They're looking for the stop here and a charge away from Ian as they're just trying not to die here.
MVP, if they want to fight, they have to go in. They've used their ult defensively, and now...
Oh, he's going to knock Pilot into the wall. The shields are going to come down here, but it's just all about zoning them away. Glacial Prison comes down onto FLICKR. He really doesn't care about that. Down goes that turret like it didn't even exist. And the pillar is going to come down. It doesn't matter. The Nexus goes down, and we will have a game number 3.
Slow and Steady wins the race in this one. Great early game from SKT. It stalled out and then some in the mid game. But by the end, it always felt like they were Baron away from everything falling into place. It does. They pick up the victory, and that means we're going to game number 3.
As a whole, all of these guys making a lot more, or less rather, mistakes and looking a lot more solid as a team. This kind of composition is one that's, you know, it's a little bit harder to make mistakes on. I feel like you kind of sit together all as a team, and it's much easier to have communication compared to a Kindred that's trying to counter jungle with the Smite Rumble who's pushing and has to be there for Equalizer, which really didn't look clean for SKT. This composition, a lot more comfortable for them.
Galio, I think, really helps everything fall into place. FLICKR was not the MVP of this game, but you can see they're squared up around what the Galio can and can't do. Makes everything a bit more solid. They're willing to push forward and know there's always the get-out-of-jail-free card of the hero's entrance, and that means we roll on to game number 3.
Yeah, so guys, we are going to go into that break right now before the final game of the night, Game 3 between MVP and SKT.